I had a lunch with Noreen a couple of months ago, and she told me about the programs that went on here, and said that they had two series, one a series of readings, and the other a series of crafts that talks about craftwork. And I said something like, well, I don't know anything about craft, so please give me a reading. She said, oh, fine, we'll do that. And then I got the invitation and said, Peter will be reading, we'll be discussing craft. So here I am. You're stuck with me. I did wonder, I think the use of the word craft is interesting. And I'm interested in what it implies and what it suggests about the making of fiction. It is a thing one tends, hey, come on, nice to see you. You often hear people say things like, I honed my craft. I used to hear the mystery writer, Ed McBain, Evan Hunter, say that in public occasionally, on panels. He said, well, in the 60s, I honed my craft. And I thought that sounded very impressive. It sounded like he was sharpening his pencils or something, because it suggests something physical. But what he was really saying was that he learned by constant effort how to write good Evan Hunter and Ed McBain novels. That was honing his craft. Craft is clearly different from art, but it's felt to be the process and the substance that gives access to art. And it is thought to be something one can learn. I think, there's another phrase people use in connection with this that suggests the same sorts of thing. People speak of the tools of the trade. Well, you need your tools of the trade. Like you have to learn how to read well, and you have to learn how to write decent sentences, and you have to be able to put a narrative together in a way that the people who want to read your kind of thing will find convincing. I think there's a movie based on a Raymond Chandler novel. I can't remember which one it is, but it's a very, very unusual movie in that the hero, Chris, is Robert Montgomery, but you only see Robert Montgomery when he's peering into a mirror, because the movie is as if filmed through his eyes. So when Philip Marlowe walks down a corridor, the camera moves down the corridor. At one point, the camera, very early in the movie, follows, leads our character up into a publisher's office where Philip Marlowe is sequestered for a moment with the secretary of the man he's supposed to meet. The secretary's name is Adrian Fromset. And Adrian Fromset takes an instant liking to Philip Marlowe. And she tells him, why don't you come and work here? I can tell you everything. I can tell you the tricks of the trade that'll really help you. When I saw the movie for the first time, I thought, I want to learn those bloody tricks of the trade. What are they? It's like something so easy, like a little kit. Alas, there are no real tricks of the trade. There's a process by which individuals, should they have the patience and the ability, can learn to write convincing, presentable, even moving fiction, and it does involve learning all sorts of little maneuvers. But these things can be felt to work, but they cannot be communicated. You can't explain to someone else how you did it. So I'm going to tell you what you have to do instead. It is necessary for anybody writing fiction, anybody starting to write fiction, and I'm speaking now mainly of sorts of young people who are in MFA programs or are thinking of going to MFA programs. I used to be dead set against them, but then my daughter went to one, and it was a lovely program, and it did her a lot of good. I think that what Emma experienced there does tend to bear out what I had thought all along, which was, and what Emma experienced there was enough time to work on stories that led her toward where she was supposed to be. The first thing you learn, the first thing you must learn when you are beginning writing is what your actual subject is. What is it that you're supposed to be doing that your internal mechanisms most speak to or most speak of? I thought when I began, because I've been a very prolific poet in my early 20s, in my mid-20s. And I published poetry in lots of places, never the New Yorker, but Poetry Magazine a lot, and all over the place, really. And so when I thought of writing a novel, since my god, more or less, was John Ashbery, he was a god for a great many people, and still is, I thought that, of course, I would write a novel that would be non-narrative, discontinuous, kind of with a kind of deliberate structural incoherence, so that the poor readers searching for a plot would be baffled at every turn, as the readers searching for a continuous sentence or meaning in an Ashbery poem is baffled. So I began, and I discovered instantly that despite my ideals, what my body and mind wanted to do was to write, this isn't any better, it was to write a kind of mashup of Scott Fitzgerald and Henry James. and my little story turned out to be rather kind of sub-Jamesian about an American Europe who gets into trouble and then gets out of trouble. I didn't learn much except that I learned that I could sit down in one place long enough and summon enough concentration to actually finish writing a novel. That's not a light thing, and I think that first step humbles, unhorses a great many beginning writers because they're just not prepared. It's you have to get used to immense amounts of loneliness. You don't have work colleagues. If you're lucky, you have an agent. But if you're that young a writer or that newest writer, your agent isn't really going to be willing to talk to you very much. You probably don't have a publisher yet. And if you do, the publisher doesn't want to talk to you. They just want you to write books. And the conditions of the job enforce a daily, ongoing loneliness, which must be accommodated. So a lot of people open the door, walk in, and the minute they find out what it's really like, they walk out again because they want people in their lives. I'm going to tell you several dirty secrets here, and I'm going to ask that you never tell anybody else what I'm going to tell you. And I certainly have never told it to anybody else, I don't think. What was the first dirty secret? I had a really good one, too.
Let us know.
I didn't expect him to be so funny.
Oh, yeah. I think I know what it is. Well, I forgot it. Well, we'll get to the second dirty secret. It's even better. The first one just had to do with I know what it was. That you must get used to having a life that is inside a room and inside your head. That if you do that, and if you really stick to that, you can probably write novels and write novels of increasing merit, and you can do better and better and get out in the world as an author and have whatever rewards you think apply to that or adhere to that position. But the first part is you don't have a life. You don't really get to have a life. The life you have is all here. The life you have is all on a page. This is a dirty secret. Writers don't want to talk about it, I don't think, unless they take it for granted. Because once you settle into that, your day is filled with conversations, with passions, with accidents, with furies, with violence, with embraces, and all floated along in the best dialogue that comes to you. It is a strange part of it. I am now going to explain what I said on Twitter. It was the 5 rules to keep you from looking like an imbecile. This is very, very basic stuff, and if you're offended by the kind of grade school level of this, I apologize. But these are things that I didn't work out for myself until I was 40, and I remember the day I began to learn these things. My family and I had moved from Westport, Connecticut, to an apartment on West 86th Street, and I had a little office. The apartment belonged to a shrink, and I had the shrink's consulting room, which was perfect. It was set aside from the rest of the apartment, and it was a very, very handsome apartment. So I sat in there, and I made lots of notes on a book that I had as yet to begin. The book was called Coco. It involved Vietnam veterans. I didn't know how tough it was going to be or how long it was going to take. I just thought it was going to be pretty much the experience I'd had before, however many times, 8 times before, 9 times before, I don't know what. So I was prepared in one way. I had pretty much worked out the action of the book, and I certainly had the characters very, very well in mind, except for the extra way they come to life when you actually start describing and saying what they do and writing down their dialogue. Anyhow, I'm prepared to do this. And I fire up the computer I had at the time, which was some clunky old IBM thing. And I wrote the name of the book, and then I wrote part 1, and then I love doing all, I like preparing all the front man. Well, what's my epigraph, before the book was written? And who is it dedicated to? Anyhow, after I supplied myself with, like 4 pages of introductory matter, I wrote part 1, chapter 1, number 1. And then I started to write. I knew exactly what I was going to do. It was the scene as witnessed by one of the main characters as he looks out of the hotel room in Washington, D.C., as veterans assemble for the dedication of the Vietnam Memorial, that wall on the Mall in Washington, one of the most beautiful memorials we have had and ever will have. So he's watching these ex-soldiers drive in their vehicles, and he sees a little contretemps going on. And so I was going along, I was quite happy. I'd written a page. And then I thought, well, okay, I'll write another page later on. But first I want to admire this page. First you write something good, and then you gloat over a little bit. Anyhow, I started reading, and I was shocked. It was written so poorly. I was really dismayed. You must understand that everything, it's true in most cases, that the things that are good in my life came to me largely through writing. This is not true of my marriage, it's not true of my children, but it's true of everything else, and it's true from grade school through college and on. Anytime I really wanted anything, or anytime I wanted to prove myself, all I had to do was write a letter or write an essay, and people fell down in admiration, and they all thought it was great. So, and I had written many books. I'd written a bunch of books. They were bestsellers. They got great reviews. And so I was used to being pleased and proud of the way I wrote my own prose. But instead, I looked at this page and it was a mess. I saw that I'd made certain crucial errors. So to save you the embarrassment of discovering that your writing makes you look like an idiot, follow these rules. These are simple rules. I wish I had a blackboard. There are actually the 5 rules to keep from making an idiot of yourself in public are actually like 11 rules. I just said 5 because I didn't. Excuse me?
We want you to read that terrible page.
I revised that until it squeaked. Okay, so here, rule number 1, this is very important. When you're writing, never ever begin 2 sentences in a row with the same word. It makes you look as though you're asleep when you do it. Likewise, never begin 2 paragraphs in a row with the same word. It looks as though you're not paying attention.